This video is about, Daddy, why did they lie? Until he exposed a truth no one expected. If this story touches your heart, please like the video and share your thoughts in comments. # Daddy, why did they lie? Until he exposed a truth no one expected. The early morning light filtered through the curtains of Amelia's small bedroom, casting soft patterns of warmth across the walls. The pastel pinks and greens of her room, adorned with stuffed animals and twinkling fairy lights, created an atmosphere of innocence that belied the complexity of the world outside. She lay cocooned in her blankets, a thick layer, guarded against the chill of the early autumn morning. Amelia, time to wake up, came the distant call of her father, Daniel. He had always been the first to rise, the first to embrace the day with the energy of a child himself. His voice was a melody, one that danced through the air like the scent of freshly brewed coffee wafting from the kitchen below. Amelia stirred, blinking sleep from her eyes. She rubbed at her messy hair, a wild array of curls that seemed to have a mind of their own. With a reluctant sigh, she pushed the covers aside and swung her legs over the side of the bed. Her feet touched the cool wooden floor, and she shivered slightly before making her way to the bathroom. As she brushed her teeth, she caught a glimpse of her reflection and did a double take. The girl staring back at her with big hazel eyes was an enigma, filled with wonder and yet shadowed by something deeper, something she couldn't quite grasp. She had overheard whispers at school, snippets of conversations that left her feeling unsure about the world she inhabited. Why do some kids have two mommies or daddies? Why do some have only one? She had asked her classmate Sarah just yesterday on the playground. Sarah had replied with a shrug, her blonde ponytail swinging as she ran off to the slide. Amelia finished up and headed downstairs, her mind still tangled in thoughts about family, love, and those elusive truths that seemed just out of reach. "Good morning." Daniel greeted her as she entered the kitchen, his broad smile illuminating his face. He was a man of simple habits, wearing well-worn jeans and a faded t-shirt that read, "Adventure awaits." He was the kind of dad who filled their home with laughter, who slid into her world of imagination without hesitation. "Morning, Daddy," she chirped, finding her place at the small wooden table. The breakfast spread was inviting, scrambled eggs, toast, and a bowl of bright, juicy strawberries. "I made your favorite," he announced, setting a plate in front of her. "Eat up, we've got a big day ahead." "What are we doing today?" She took a bite, savoring the buttery flavor that clung to the eggs. "We're going to the park, remember? There's a fall festival happening, and I thought it would be fun to check it out." Amelia's eyes lit up. "Yes, the pumpkin patch." "Exactly," Daniel chuckled, ruffling her hair affectionately. "But first, you should finish your breakfast. What's the point of a festival if you don't have the energy to run around?" As they ate, the conversation flowed easily, the intimacy of their relationship evident in the way they bounced ideas off each other, building a fortress of shared dreams. Daniel often marveled at her boundless curiosity, the way her mind raced with questions about the universe and everything in it. Yet today, there was a shadow that seemed to linger in her gaze, a flicker of uncertainty that made him pause. "Hey, is everything okay?" he asked gently, sensing the weight behind her playful demeanor. Amelia hesitated, her fork hovering above the plate. "Daddy, why do people lie?" The question caught him off guard, and for a moment he was silent, searching for the right words. "Well, sometimes people lie to protect others or themselves. Other times it's because they're scared or don't know how to tell the truth." "Is it wrong to lie?" she pressed, her youthful voice filled with an intensity that belied her age. Daniel leaned back in his chair, studying her. "It depends on the situation. Sometimes the truth can hurt more than a little white lie, but honesty is important. It builds trust." "Then why do people lie to me?" she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. A sudden chill crept into the room, and Daniel's heart ached at the hint of vulnerability in her question. "Who lied to you, sweetheart?" For a moment, Amelia seemed lost in thought, her brow furrowed as she traced the edge of her plate with one finger. "At school, some kids say things that don't make sense, like how families are supposed to be. Some kids say I should have a mommy." Daniel's heart sank. He had always tried to create a safe space for Amelia, to nurture her understanding of their family dynamics. He was a single parent, a role he had embraced wholeheartedly, but the outside world often intruded in ways he couldn't control. "Amelia, listen to me. Families come in all shapes and sizes. What matters is love and support, not the number of parents." "But why can't I have a mommy?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. Daniel reached across the table, taking her small hand in his. "You have me, and I love you more than anything in this world. It's okay to be curious, and it's okay to ask questions. Just remember, love is what makes a family." Amelia nodded, but the doubt still lingered behind her eyes. As they finished breakfast, Daniel made a mental note to speak with her teacher about the conversations happening at school. He wanted to protect her innocence as much as possible, but he knew the world was often harsh and unforgiving. After breakfast, they packed a picnic basket filled with sandwiches and snacks and set off for the festival. The crisp autumn air was invigorating, and Daniel could feel a sense of excitement bubbling within him as they approached the park. Brightly colored banners flapped in the breeze, and laughter echoed through the trees, a harmonious symphony that made his heart swell. As they entered the festival grounds, Amelia's eyes sparkled with delight. Children raced by, their faces painted with bright colors, and the scent of caramel apples wafted through the air. Daniel couldn't help but smile as she pulled him towards the pumpkin patch, her laughter ringing like music. "Look, Daddy, that one, it's huge," she exclaimed, pointing to a pumpkin that could easily rival her in size. "Let's get that one then," he replied, playfully hoisting her onto his shoulders. From this vantage point, she could see the entire patch, a sea of orange dotted with the greens of vines and leaves. For a moment, as she squealed with joy, Daniel pushed aside the weight of the conversation they had just had. He wanted this day to be perfect, to fill her heart with happiness, even as the shadows of doubt loomed in the corners of his mind. As the afternoon wore on, the festival unfolded like a storybook, each moment a page in their shared adventure. They painted pumpkins, played games, and shared stories over lunch. Yet, despite the joy surrounding them, Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that Amelia's question would linger, an unspoken truth waiting to be uncovered. As they settled down on a picnic blanket, surrounded by laughter and the sounds of celebration, the shadows of their lives intertwined, hinting at the truth that lay ahead. The world outside thrived with color, but within, the tender threads of their bond were woven together, bracing for the storm of revelations that awaited them. "Daddy, can we go on the Ferris wheel?" Amelia asked, her eyes gleaming with excitement. "Of course," Daniel replied, his heart swelling at the sight of her joy. Little did he know that as the wheel turned, so too would their lives, spiraling into a new chapter filled with questions that demanded to be answered. As they made their way toward the ride, Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that the day held more than just laughter and pumpkin patches. Change was in the air, a whisper of truths unspoken, waiting to be revealed. And as the sun dipped lower in the sky, painting the horizon in hues of gold and crimson, Daniel's heartbeat quickened, knowing that the innocence of this moment was fleeting, and that the shadows of their lives might soon unveil a truth neither of them could have anticipated. Daddy, why did they lie? Until he exposed a truth no one expected. The Ferris wheel towered over the festival like a beacon of childhood wonder, its bright lights flickering against the fading daylight. As they approached, the sounds of laughter and joy enveloped Daniel and Amelia, a cacophony that felt both comforting and chaotic. Yet amidst the revelry, Daniel felt an undercurrent of unease. The question Amelia had posed lingered in his mind like a specter. "Daddy, can we go on the Ferris wheel?" Amelia's voice broke through his thoughts, filled with innocent anticipation. "Of course," he replied, unable to resist the brightness of her expression. She tugged at his hand, her small fingers gripping tightly as they navigated through the throng of children, parents, and vendors. Each turn brought the sweet scent of cotton candy and the sound of distant music, mingling with the chatter of excited voices. As they approached the ride, a wave of nostalgia washed over Daniel. He remembered the countless times his own father had lifted him onto rides just like this one, the feeling of exhilaration swirling in his stomach as they climbed higher and higher. Yet today, as he helped Amelia onto the seat and settled in beside her, he felt a pang of responsibility. He was not just a father, he was her sole protector, the keeper of the truths they both needed to navigate. The wheel began to turn, slowly lifting them off the ground. Amelia laughed, her voice bubbling with joy as they reached the apex of the ride. From this vantage point, the festival stretched out below them, a mosaic of colors and sounds. Daniel watched her face, glowing with excitement, and for a moment he wished he could bottle this feeling, her laughter, her joy, like a sweet syrup to be savored forever. "Look, Daddy, we can see the whole park." Amelia pointed, her eyes wide with wonder. "And there's the pumpkin patch. We picked the biggest pumpkin." Her enthusiasm was infectious, and Daniel smiled. But behind that smile lay the weight of unasked questions. "Yeah, it's a beauty," he replied, trying to keep his tone light. But the moment was fleeting. As the ride continued its ascent, Amelia's expression shifted. Her brows furrowed, and the joy that had filled her voice now faded into something more contemplative. "Daddy," she began, her tone serious, "can I ask you something?" "Of course, sweetheart. You can ask me anything." Daniel turned to face her, the thrill of the ride momentarily forgotten as he sensed the gravity of her inquiry. "Why do they say I should have a mommy? Why do people keep talking about family and love when it's just us?" Amelia's voice trembled slightly, the innocence of her question cutting deeper than any knife. The wind whipped through Daniel's hair, and for a moment he felt suspended between heaven and earth, trapped in a moment that could last forever. He could see the questions swirling in her hazel eyes, the yearning for answers that felt just out of reach. "Amelia," he started, searching for the right words. "Families can look different. Some kids have two parents, some have one, and some have none. The important thing is that you are loved and you have me. But I want to know why they say it's not enough. Why do they lie?" Amelia pressed, her voice thick with emotion. Daniel inhaled deeply, bracing himself for the conversation he had hoped to avoid. "Sweetheart, sometimes people don't understand what love looks like. They think it has to fit a certain mold. But our family is special in its own way. It's just as valid as any other." Amelia seemed to mull this over, her brow furrowing like she was trying to solve a puzzle. "But it feels like a lie, like they're hiding something from us." The Ferris wheel began its descent, and Daniel's heart raced. What if she was right? What if there was something more profound at play that he had yet to uncover? A deeper truth that could shatter the fragile world he had built around them. "I understand it feels that way," he said finally, his voice steady but filled with concern. "But sometimes the truth is complicated. Not everyone knows how to express it. They might think they're protecting you by saying certain things." Amelia remained silent, her small hand clenching the metal bar in front of her. As they reached the ground and disembarked, Daniel could see that her mind was still racing. "Can we go find that carousel?" she asked, her voice tinged with a hint of distraction. "Sure, let's go," he replied, trying to lighten the mood. They walked hand in hand, the vibrant lights and sounds of the festival swirling around them like a vivid dream. Yet even amidst the chaos, his heart felt heavy, a reminder that questions about family, love, and identity were not just for children, they were for him too. When they finally found the carousel, colorful horses bobbed up and down, their manes glittering under the twinkling lights. Amelia's face lit up as she climbed onto one of the horses, her laughter echoing across the park. Daniel watched her, his heart swelling with love but also with anxiety. He knew this day was a patchwork of joy and confusion for her, a dance between innocence and the harsh realities they both faced. As the carousel began to spin, Daniel's thoughts wandered back to the life he had built after Amelia's mother left. He had poured every ounce of love he had into raising her, but the remnants of his past, of their family's disintegration, still haunted him. The lies he had told himself about what it meant to be a father, the truths about love and loss, were all woven into the fabric of their lives. "Amelia," he called as the carousel slowed, his heart pounding. "Can I tell you something?" She looked up at him, her eyes bright, but there was an edge of apprehension there too. "Is it about why families are different?" "It is, but it's also about why I've always told you that love is what makes a family." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "When I met your mother, I thought we would build a life together, but things didn't go as planned. She had her own struggles, and that's not something you need to worry about now. All I want is for you to know that you're loved, and I'm here for you always." Amelia frowned, her brow furrowed with confusion. "But isn't it a lie if she didn't want to be with us?" Daniel swallowed hard, the weight of the conversation heavy on his heart. It's a complicated situation. Sometimes people don't know how to choose love. They try to find it in the wrong places. But that doesn't mean you are any less deserving of it. Amelia nodded, though her expression revealed that she was still grappling with the concepts of love and loss, of what it meant to have a family. As they stepped off the carousel, Daniel took a deep breath, knowing they were standing at the precipice of a conversation that would shape Amelia's understanding of her own identity. "Can we find a quiet spot?" he asked. "There's something else I want to share with you." Together, they wandered through the crowd, eventually finding a secluded bench beneath a tree, its leaves painted in shades of gold as the autumn sun began to set. Daniel sat down, pulling Amelia close to him, and for a moment they watched the world around them. "Daddy," she began, her voice softening, "do you think we're a real family?" His heart twisted at her question, full of innocence yet tinged with the realization of their reality. "Absolutely, Amelia. We're a real family. We may not look like everyone else's family, but our love is genuine. It's real." The sun dipped lower, and as shadows stretched across the park, Daniel felt the weight of his own truth pressing down on him. And sometimes the truth we learn isn't the one we expected. It can be messy and it can hurt, but it's important to find our own way of understanding it. Just like you asked about why people lie, sometimes they're lost and they don't know how to find their way back. Amelia looked up at him, her eyes wide. "So it's okay to ask questions, even if they're hard." "More than okay," he replied, cupping her cheek. "Questions are what help us understand not just the world but ourselves too." As the shadows deepened and the festival began to wind down, Daniel felt a sense of resolution wash over him. He knew that their journey was just beginning, and that while the questions would come, so too would opportunities for growth, understanding, and love. The truth was not always simple, but it was theirs to discover together. "Let's go find that giant pumpkin one more time before we head home," he said, his heart buoyed by the warmth of their shared connection. "Okay, Daddy," she chirped, Jumping up from the bench, her spirit rekindled. Together, hand in hand, they rejoined the laughter and colors of the festival, ready to embrace whatever truths lay ahead, knowing that love would always be their guiding light. As they made their way back towards the pumpkin patch, the festival felt alive with an energy that surged through the crisp autumn air. Amelia walked alongside her father, her small hand swinging between them, the warmth of their connection acting as a balm against the questions that still lingered in her mind. "Daddy, do you think we can carve the pumpkin tonight?" she asked, her excitement bubbling over as they neared the vibrant sea of orange. "Absolutely, we can make it a little Halloween masterpiece," Daniel replied, the corner of his mouth lifting into a smile. "What do you think? Should we give it a silly face or a spooky one?" "A silly one for sure, like a pirate." Amelia giggled, her eyes sparkling, with an eye patch and everything. "I can't wait to see that." He chuckled, the sound echoing warmly in the fading light. As they approached the largest pumpkin, the sight of it made Daniel's heart swell. It was perfect, round, plump, and full of character. Together, they crouched down to examine it closely. Daniel's fingers brushed against the coarse skin of the pumpkin, feeling the ridges and textures as he pictured the creative adventure that lay ahead. "This is the one, huh? It's going to be a hit at school." "Yes, everyone will want to see it," Amelia exclaimed, her face alight with the thrill of impending Halloween festivities. With a shared sense of purpose, Daniel and Amelia flagged down a friendly vendor who helped them lift the giant pumpkin onto a cart. As they wheeled it away, their laughter mingled with the sounds of the festival, children squealing on rides, the distant music of carnival games, and vendors calling out their wares. "Hey, let's get some caramel apples too," Daniel suggested as they paused at a stand adorned with glistening treats. "Yay!" Amelia squealed, her joy infectious. They approached the vendor, a woman in her 50s with a warm smile and hair tied back in a bright bandana. "2 caramel apples, please," Daniel said, pulling a few crinkled bills from his pocket. "Coming right up." The vendor quickly dipped the apples, drenching them in thick caramel before rolling them in crushed nuts. "Here you go, sweethearts. Just be careful not to get too sticky." Daniel handed Amelia her apple, the glossy surface shimmering in the golden light. "You first," he said, watching as she took a big bite, her face lighting up in pure delight. It's amazing," she declared, her mouth full, the caramel pulling at the corners of her lips. "Just remember, you have to save some room for dinner, okay?" he teased, wiping a bit of caramel from her chin with a napkin. Amelia nodded, her eyes shining with happiness as she licked her lips, savoring the sweetness. "Okay, Daddy, but can we eat while we carve the pumpkin? I want to eat my apple while we make it look silly." "Deal, we'll make our own little carving station at home." Daniel smiled, feeling the warmth of being a father wrap around him like a snug blanket. As they made their way back to the pumpkin patch to check out a few more pumpkins, just for fun, Amelia's voice cut through the festive atmosphere, bringing Daniel back to the earlier conversation. "Daddy, can I ask you another question?" "Of course, sweetheart," he replied, sensing the gravity behind her words. "Why did Mommy leave?" The question hung in the air, heavy and poignant amidst the laughter and cheers of the festival. Daniel's heart sank. He had been bracing for this moment, the moment when the truth of their family's past would bubble up and demand to be acknowledged. He knelt beside her, looking into those hazel eyes that held such depth. "Amelia," he began, trying to find the right words. "Sometimes people leave because they have their own battles to fight. Your mother, she had her own struggles that made it hard for her to be the person she wanted to be." "What kind of struggles?" Amelia pressed, her youthful curiosity mixing with the tension of the moment. "Things like fear, confusion, and, sometimes, a lack of understanding of what love really means," Daniel explained gently. It's not always easy to see how our choices affect the people we love. Your mom loved you, I believe that. But she wasn't ready to face the challenges of being a parent, and that's something she needs to work through. Amelia's brows knitted together, processing his words. So, she didn't want to be our family. Daniel swallowed hard, feeling the weight of honesty. It's complicated, baby. It wasn't that she didn't want to be a family, but she struggled with her own feelings. Some people think being a parent is just about being there, but it's also about being emotionally ready. And she was. Amelia looked down, the joy that had filled her eyes moments ago now replaced with a cloud of confusion. But why didn't you tell me this before? Why did you let me think it was just me and you? Daniel took a deep breath, understanding the weight of his choices. I wanted to protect you from the hurt of knowing. I thought that if I made it clear how much I loved you, that would be enough. But I see now that you need to understand the truth, even if it's hard. Do you think she'll ever come back? Amelia's voice trembled slightly, vulnerability creeping into her question. I don't know, sweetheart. That's something only she can answer, Daniel replied, his heart aching at the uncertainty. But I want you to know that no matter what, you are my everything. We have our own little family and it's strong. Amelia's gaze shifted to the ground, her little fingers now tracing the patterns in the dirt. What if I wanted a mommy? She asked softly, the vulnerability raw and unfiltered. The question hit Daniel like a wave crashing against a shore, and he felt a knot tighten in his chest. It's okay to want that, he said gently. It's normal to want a complete picture of family, but I want you to know that our love is just as real. You're not alone in this. I'm right here with you. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting elongated shadows across the festival grounds. Amelia looked up, blinking back tears that threatened to spill over. But it feels unfair. It is unfair, Daniel agreed, his heart heavy with empathy. Life isn't always fair, and sometimes we have to grapple with things that don't make sense. But what we can control is how we love each other and how we support one another through the confusion. Amelia took a deep breath, her small body trembling with emotion. I don't want to stop loving you, Daddy. You're the best. Daniel wrapped his arms around her, pulling her close in a comforting embrace. And I don't want you to stop loving me either. You're my whole world, kiddo. Together, we can face whatever comes our way. As they stood there, the festival buzzed around them, but in that moment it felt as if time had slowed. They were cocooned in their own universe, a space where honesty and love intertwined, even amidst uncertainty. Let's go get that pumpkin, Amelia said, her voice steadier, the shadow of doubt beginning to lift. Okay, pumpkin pirate, Daniel replied, ruffling her hair affectionately. Let's make this night a memory we won't forget. As they made their way back through the festival, Daniel felt the weight of their conversation still lingering, but he also felt a flicker of hope. The truth hadn't shattered their bond. Instead, it had opened a door to deeper understanding. When they finally settled back at home, carving tools in hand, the world outside faded away, replaced by the warmth of their kitchen filled with laughter, the smell of pumpkin, and the sweet, sticky remnants of caramel apples. Daniel knew that their journey was still unfolding, but with each question answered, they were weaving a tapestry of love and resilience that would guide them through whatever lay ahead. Ready? He asked, looking down at Amelia, whose face was smeared with laughter and caramel. Ready? She grinned, excitement sparkling in her eyes as they began to carve the pumpkin, laughter echoing through the night, a reminder that together they could face any truth that came their way. The kitchen was alive with the aroma of roasting pumpkin seeds and caramelized spice as Daniel and Amelia dove into their creative project. The golden glow of the overhead lights poured across their makeshift carving station, illuminating their workspace. A wooden table strewn with tools, paper towels, and glistening pumpkin guts. Daniel felt a sense of comfort in the familiar chaos, a quiet assurance that their little family could carve out joy from even the most complicated truths. "Okay, the big question," Daniel said, picking up a serrated knife and holding up the pumpkin for Amelia to see. "What kind of face are we giving our pirate pumpkin?" Amelia's brows furrowed in concentration, her small fingers sticky with pumpkin slime as she thought. Maybe one eye like this." She pointed to her own eye, squinting dramatically, "and a big, crooked smile." Daniel laughed, his heart lifting at her enthusiasm. "I love it. A crooked smile would show that this pirate is up to some mischief." "Yes," Amelia giggled, her laughter bubbling forth like the joy that filled the room. "And we should give him a little hat, like a pirate's hat." "Absolutely, let's draw that first." Daniel set the pumpkin down and grabbed a marker, sketching a simple design on the surface. He enjoyed these moments, where creativity flowed between them like warm honey, sweetening the air, thickening the bond they shared. As he drew, he could hear Amelia humming softly, lost in her own world of imagination. She leaned forward, her eyes wide as she watched the transformation of the pumpkin. "Daddy, is our pirate going to have a name?" "Ah, of course. Every good pirate needs a name." Daniel paused, pretending to think hard. "What about Captain Caramel?" "Captain Caramel, I love it." Amelia squealed, clapping her hands. "He's going to be the best pumpkin ever." Their laughter filled the kitchen, a reminder that even amidst the shadows of their earlier conversation, joy could still bloom. Daniel found himself grateful for the lightness Amelia brought into his life, despite the weight of their reality. He understood now that there was still so much to unpack about their family, about love, and about truth. Yet in this moment, he felt a flicker of hope, and that hope was wrapped in the laughter of a little girl. As Daniel carefully started to carve, Amelia watched intently, her eyes reflecting both fascination and a hint of apprehension. "Be careful, Daddy," she called out, her voice laced with concern. "I don't want you to get hurt." "Don't worry, sweetheart, I've got this." He reassured her, showing her how to safely hold the pumpkin steady. The knife glided through the pumpkin's thick skin, and Daniel took his time, ensuring each cut was precise, revealing the ghoulish grin they had dreamed up together. "Can I try?" Amelia asked, her voice tinged with eagerness. "Of course, hold the carving tool like this." He guided her hand, showing her how to grip it properly. "Just be very careful, okay? We want Captain Caramel to look amazing." With her tiny hands wrapped around the tool, she took a deep breath, an expression of determination crossing her face. As she pushed down gently on the pumpkin, the blade punctured the skin, and she squealed with joy. "I'm helping. I'm a pirate too." "Absolutely, you are." Daniel cheered, his heart swelling with pride. He watched her, admiring not just her creativity but the way she approached the world with such fearless curiosity. As they took turns carving, the conversation veered back to their earlier discussion. "Daddy," Amelia began tentatively, "do you think Captain Caramel has a mommy pirate too?" The question hung heavily in the air, a reminder of the complexity that lingered beneath the surface of their playful activity. Daniel put down his tools and turned to her, recognizing this as an opportunity to further navigate the difficult terrain of their family's truth. "You know," he began carefully, "even pirates come from all sorts of families. Some have partners and some go on adventures alone. It's the love they share that matters, not necessarily how many pirates there are." Amelia mulled over his words, her brow furrowed once more. "So, just because Captain Caramel doesn't have a mommy doesn't mean he isn't loved." "Exactly," Daniel said, his voice firm yet gentle. "He can still have lots of friends and family who care about him. Love comes in many forms, and it's special no matter how it looks." Amelia nodded, her little face lightening as she absorbed this new insight. like you and me. Just like us, he affirmed, relieved at her ability to grasp the complexity of it all. And you know, we can still celebrate all the kinds of love, even if they don't fit the usual picture. Okay, Amelia replied, her smile returning as she resumed carving with renewed enthusiasm. Let's make his smile even bigger. They continued their work, laughter intertwining with the sounds of carving, the air thickening with the scent of pumpkin and creativity. In the midst of it all, Daniel marveled at the strength his daughter was showing, understanding that not all questions would have clear answers, but that those moments of sharing and creating were building blocks of resilience. Finally, as they placed the finishing touches on Captain Carmel's face, Daniel stepped back to admire their work. "He looks incredible," he exclaimed, pride radiating from his voice. Amelia's eyes sparkled with delight as she took in their creation, the crooked smile and mismatched eyes glaring mischievously in the warm glow of the kitchen lights. "Now we have to give him a special place to sit." "Definitely," Daniel replied, gathering the pumpkin in his arms. "Let's find him a spot where he can watch over the house." They set Captain Carmel on the window sill, a sentinel of sorts beaming down at the street below. "He'll scare away all the bad guys," Amelia declared, a sense of triumph in her voice. "Exactly. He's the bravest pirate in town," Daniel said, ruffling her hair affectionately. The warmth of this moment enveloped them, a cocoon of love and creativity. As they settled into the living room, Daniel glanced at the clock, realizing how late it had gotten. "All right, pirate, time to wind down. How about a story before bed? Can we read the pirate book?" she asked, her eyes lighting up once again. "Of course. Let me grab it," he said, heading over to the bookshelf, where a collection of stories awaited them. Finding the pirate book, he returned to the couch, cupping Amelia's small frame in his arms as they snuggled under a warm blanket. The pages of the book turned easily, each illustration igniting Amelia's imagination. As Daniel read about swashbuckling adventures and treasure maps, he could see the wonder in her eyes, a spark that reminded him of the magic they still had in the midst of their complicated reality. "Daddy?" she asked quietly, her voice barely breaking the silence as he finished a page. "Yes, sweetheart," he replied, pausing to meet her gaze. "Do you think we'll always be this happy, even with the hard stuff?" Her question was simple yet profound. Daniel took a deep breath, reflecting on the journey they had traveled together, the ups and downs, the laughter and tears. "I believe we can be happy, Amelia. Happiness comes from within us, and we can choose to find it even when things are tough. As long as we have each other, we will be okay." Amelia smiled, her eyes shimmering with trust. "And Captain Carmel will help us, right?" "Absolutely," he chuckled, feeling the warmth of her spirit. "He's our little guardian watching over us." As they settled into a comfortable silence, the sound of the autumn wind rustling outside, Daniel felt a sense of peace wash over him. He knew that the road ahead would be filled with more questions and uncertainties, but in moments like these, he was reminded that love was their anchor. Together, they had built a world where laughter thrived, where stories unfolded under the glow of pumpkin light, and where family meant something uniquely theirs. A bond carved from truth, love, and the promise of adventure.